Today is Palm Sunday, also known as Passion Sunday. It's the first day of the Holy Week and the Sunday before Easter, which commemorates Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. It also signals the end of the Lenten season for Christians. That is not all. In continuation of what we discussed yesterday, talking about children with intellectual disabilities, we want to continue hallmarking today. Do you know today is April 2nd? That is not all it signifies. Their symbol is a puzzle. Their color is blue. And their theme for this year is transforming the narrative at home, at work, in the arts, and in policy making. I'm talking about autism. Today's World Autism Day, and you can count on us on Weekend Deal to mark it excellently. Celebrating the geniuses who have come to the fore and giving us in-depth understanding and clarity about what they go through, about what the caregivers do, and we'll be talking with some of their parents as well. My name is Thelma Obaza. We urge to be a part of the program. Your messages must come in. Your experiences. We want to hear, we want to share. All in the course of the program. Weekend Deal is activated. This is, we continue at this time. We want to let you know that when you send in your messages on our program, it deepens our discussion and gives our viewers more clarity. So don't hesitate today, be a part of the discussion. We'll take our first break. When we return, Francis Ogbe will set the tone for our conversation. Don't go away.
Is World Autism Day. The day aims to put a spotlight on hurdles that people with autism and others living with autism face every day. Statistics revealed that autism spectrum disorder is 4.3 times more prevalent in boys than in girls.
Autism, it's a condition that is lifelong, that is related to the development of the brain. People with autism have problems with social interactions and communication. Studies and researches have shown that the ratio of boys to girls is about 4:1. It means that it is more prevalent in boys. Studies have also shown that if a child is born with autism, a male child, the risk of his sibling having autism is high, but is most higher when the next sibling or the sibling that will be affected is a male. We don't know why for now, but this is what has been shown from studies.
Available scientific evidence suggests that there are probably many factors that make a child more likely to have autism, including environmental and genetic factors.
Things like pesticide have been implicated, use of some certain medications during pregnancy in the mother has been implicated, maternal infection during pregnancy like rubella has also been implicated. And then also another thing is obstetric history. Things that happen during childbirth, like if a child is born with low birth weight or preterm, the risk of developing autism is there. Tends to have problem with communication. So this could be in form of not able to talk. Some parents will tell you that they notice that their child has delayed speech, and when eventually the child speaks, maybe after the age of 2 or 3, they notice that the child speaks with some few words. And most times they're just able to communicate their needs, or they talk with just monosyllables. Wonders, they can't make a full sentence. They also have problems with conversation. They're not able to initiate conversation. And sometimes when you are talking to them, You feel like they are not hearing when they are not actually there. But what is happening is that they don't seem to understand what you're saying. It means they have problems with comprehension as well. So, but another thing is that there is no autistic child that is the same. Every autistic child is different. But there are core things that when we see in autism, we know that that child is autistic. And this is one of them I mentioned, problems with communication. Then another thing is that they tend to have problems with social interactions. You tend to see them, they like being aloof, always playing alone. They don't like to mingle. And then they don't understand social cues. When you try to hug them or cuddle them, some of them, not all, would avoid that.
People with autism spectrum disorder often have problems with social communication, interaction, and restricted or repetitive behavior or interests. Consequently, these characteristics can make life very challenging. However, understanding these challenges presented by each type of autism will guide an individual in helping his or her child cope with the disorder.
So before now, we have what is called the Rett syndrome, we have the Asperger syndrome, we have the autism itself, and then others. But then it has been shown that all these individuals tend to have all the classical symptoms we see in autistic. So what it was concluded was that let us merge this to be autism spectrum disorder. So it became a spectrum where you can have the mild one, which is the Asperger's, to the most severe one.
The National Autistic Society has labeled this year's theme as being about colors, as the society believes that people should be proud of their differences and not shy away from an autism diagnosis.
An autistic. So these are things we see. When we see these core features, 3 core features, we know that that person is autistic.
The abilities and needs of autistic people vary and can evolve over time. While some people with autism can live independently, others have severe disabilities and require lifelong care and support.
Autism does not have a cure. Autism is a lifelong condition. It means that it's something that the person lives with. And the only thing is that we manage it based on individual. Autistic individuals are unique individuals. The only thing is that we can help them and support them. And then another thing is that the earlier you bring your child to see the doctor, the better.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on managing children with intellectual disabilities.
Our focal point is on children with intellectual disabilities. And yesterday, when we were having several conversations, it was aired openly and freely and kindly that love, patience, understanding, and kindness are key ingredients to ensure that our children integrate warmly into any society. Dr. Najatu Hamza will guide us about autistic children, which we often know is called ASD. And the theme this year is transforming the narrative at home, at work, in the arts, and in policy making. Is this a wake-up call to innovate or rejuvenate our policies?
Oh yes, I think it should be, because even though we have a commission for persons with disability, I think the policy has actually not been it has not been put into practice. You find it still in the documents, not practical. So if we can push for these policies to move into hospitals, to move into the education sector, to move into families, so that we integrate between these sectors, I think we will make a progress with children with autism. Worldwide, currently the strong evidence has shown that therapy for children with autism is more beneficial when it's integrated with the family. So you see, this is where we are.
Most assuredly,
yes.
Because even if they go to school, the special schools, or they spend time with colleagues and friends, they go back home, where they spend a lot more time.
Yes, so I think even centers that deal with children with autism try to look at the school, they look at their homes, and also integrate things within the center to actually integrate the different sectors.
I want to talk about policies before we go to Lagos. I want to talk about policies. What are we referring to? Can you give us an idea of what these policies contain and how they can benefit our special children?
When we talk about policies, we are talking about statements that are specific and they are directed with goals for specific children. For instance, there is a 2018 Disability Act where children with autism also fall under persons with disability. And the statement there is that these children should have free access to health, should have free access to education and all that. But we didn't see all this being practicalized. So I think it has not been it's so active. So these statements have remained in the documents, even though a few places have tried to put them into action, but it's not...
it can be more energized.
Yes,
we can do more.
We can do better, really.
It does seem as though Channel 5 are following on the heels of our conversation, and that's how they can share with us about policies for children with autism in Nigeria. Please share.
More than 425,000 children between the ages of 3 to 21 have some level of intellectual disability, ranging from cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and autism. Autism is a condition rarely talked about in Nigeria. It is considered as one of the most ignored health issues.
There's been a lot of improvement in the children with these therapies we give them and the support given to them. But there is no any health support. The government has no support for them. No any NHIS, no any special health package for them. That's why you see some parents who cannot afford it, rather keep their children at home. If the government can come in and support the children with maybe NHIS, like children with CP, with physiotherapies, they can alliance with special needs center, which can refer them to some doctors.
I'm an expert by experience in autism management and care because I have a child who is on the autism spectrum. He is 80 years old now. At the time I had my child in 2004, and today, things have changed. Many hospitals recognize it now and are able to offer referrals now. It's better than it was before. When you go to the hospital, you normally see a general practitioner whom you tell what is wrong with your child, what your concerns are. The GP will now refer you to the pediatric units. And now, at least I know that EK Foundation for Autism works with National Hospital now, such that once they see that child, they refer to, so can we put this child on a spectrum? Is the child on a spectrum? And they also have, parameters with which they measure and assess the child.
Established in 1999, the National Health Insurance Scheme is a corporate body that provides access, affordable and universal health care services to all Nigerians. But the level of health care provision for autism in Nigeria is pathetically low, lacking medical and psychological aid.
Most hospitals do what they call referral. So they don't actually give you the direct service, they will actually refer you to. Because in my center, we get more of the referral from national hospitals, from other hospitals actually. And it's actually the government that are actually meant to push in this awareness actually. Because there are so many government officials that don't even know about some of these issues. NHIS doesn't really cover for therapy. They only cover for maybe medical issues in children with special needs actually.
A lot of secondary and tertiary health institutions, government institutions, have pediatric neurologists. However, the provision of the specialist care, that's speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy and the likes, are a bit lacking. I won't say a bit, they are lacking because we don't have universal access to them. Some parents are not even aware that these therapies exist. So they are available, but in short supply. So the National Health Insurance Authority Act was sworn in last year, and it's now mandatory that there is health coverage for every Nigerian. So I think a step the government should take is ensuring that this health coverage actually covers for specialist cares. But most times the cover stops at accessing us, you know. So we get to give them diagnosis, we do the assessments, but then when they have to now go on to have therapy, which is usually might be lifelong, most times covers a very long period of time, they get to pay out of pocket. I think the government should include their therapies under some form of cover, you know, to lighten the weight on parents. It's a huge burden because it's capital intensive and it's lifelong.
To help address the growing concerns in diagnosis and management of children with intellectual disabilities in Nigeria, there is a need for intense intervention on the part of medical practitioners, loved ones, and stakeholders in helping sufferers come out of these quagmire.
Interesting. There's a quagmire, is there? What we hear, you know, what I'm talking about since yesterday is about the mindset of many a Nigerian. Some people believe that because of the autism, some of them are less. You'll be surprised there are more. Each one of them has genius and unchallenged ability. And when they showcase what they got, my oh my. You'll be glad that you listened and you watched. So stay with us on the show today and be interactive. Share your experiences. There's a lot more to come. But for now, let's touch down in Kano. They will inform us.
Disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. Autism spectrum disorder impacts the nervous system. Its symptoms include difficulty with communication, difficulty with social interactions, repetitive behaviors, poor eye contact, self-harm, etc. The autism rate in Kano cannot be ascertained. This is mainly due to the limited knowledge about the disease. We spoke with the head of department, special needs students of a school, and she had this to say.
We have 32 autistic children. 13 are females and 19 are males. Me as a teacher, I really appreciate the way we are interacting with them because they are lovely. They are pure, they are very innocent. They like people, they like especially young ones, they like to help young ones. If you are with them, they can give you all their mind and their love. They show their teachers love and affection. They like people, especially if you give them the opportunity to express themselves, because some of them, they are not good in expressing themselves, they are shy. But if you clothe them, giving them support, supporting them, encouraging them, then they will be free to tell you their mind.
State structure for children with autism is very sketchy. Malam Mahmoud educated us on how children with autism can be managed.
When the people are intended to be educated to impart with knowledge, they need to have a place whereby there is enough of space where they can have a space where they will easily acquire the knowledge which their teacher is trying to impart to them. Then the next stage is what visual schedule. Most of the people with autism, they used to learn by seeing. Therefore, as a teacher, there is a need for the teacher to provide the upcoming lesson. What they are expecting to do in the next lesson, they need to be provided with it so that the student will visualize it. When the teacher comes to impart the knowledge, the student will find it easily to understand what the teacher is trying to teach them.
The most important question on parents of children with autism is, can they be taught to grow up and be independent? Shamsiya Magajigaya, special education teacher, answered this for us.
Autism is not a spiritual attack. It's a disease. To before then, as in olden days, people, when they get back to autism, the autistic child, they refer it to as maybe God hate them or something like that, but it's totally wrong. In fact, to have a such child, it's a blessing. It's a blessing because those child are very, very, very precious. If you take that child to the school, he can be teach on how to toileting, daily living skills, clothing, and so many other, even vocational skills they can learn. It's just that the severeness of the disease, that's what will hinder them from achieving in life. Because we have 4 categories. We have the mild, the severe, the profound, and the extraordinary. So with this, it depends on the level of your severeness of the disease, what they can achieve in life. Even for instance, here in our school, we have so many autistic children that they can make shoes, bags, and so many other things.
In Kano, knowledge of autistic spectrum disease is very minimal and mostly in medical circles. There is need for greater awareness for the general public.
And greater awareness starts with you and I, as you hear the word, as you hear about their special day, which is today. Go read up, learn something, and of course, increase in yourself patience, love, and understanding. When you identify, then you can manage and support when you understand what is required of you. Well, Doshima has been looking at some areas about their education. Are they in school? Ought they to be in school? And were they to go to school? What schools are available for them?
91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99.
Childbearing is the joy of every parent and a gift from God. It is therefore the desire and expectation of every parent to bring forth a healthy child. But when there is a twist, it's very important to accept the challenge and brace up to it.
When she was 1, she wasn't walking, she wasn't talking before she was 1. There were a lot of delays in developmental stages, and I began to research them more. She was not talking, and then she would look at people because of the distorted face. But we kept looking at her. By age 2, to hold things was very hard. By age 3, she started working at age 2. By age 3, I realized that she was still very, very slow. In fact, the day she uttered the first word, we were all elated in the house. And then we began to watch her. She could not write, she could not hold pencil, and we began to look at her. And then that was when I began to think that she might be autistic.
We must understand that every child with autism is unique and their needs may vary.
We would take her to schools. Schools can't cope, so we kept changing schools. But because I was researching already, we had special teachers come home to teach her. And I took it upon myself also to teach her, to train her. And most of the therapies, vocational, educational, voice, outlook, I began to take it up on myself because I began to read about all these things myself. And I began to check other parents, what they did, international parents, what they did.
One effective way to educate an autistic child is through applied behavior analysis. ABA is a scientifically proven method that focuses on positive reinforcement.
The best method to teach any child is to first of all let the child know that they are accepted. It's very key. If you don't let them know that you care about them, they don't care about any other thing you're doing.
Accepting them the way they are, allowing them to be part of the school system, society, and any other thing that But we took it up on ourselves, both everybody at home, anybody living with us, you have to understand that this is what we do. Then we have to make them understand that she has to process things. Like if you're working now, she will first of all look at you. In fact, in most schools, they call her lukuluku, because she will look at you to assess you. You would have noticed one of the children also doing that. Assess you first. It could take her 30 minutes before she She would know, oh, is this person? Like when she first uttered the name of a person living with us, took her months. And then one day that one came into the house and then, aye, she was calling Stanley. That was the first, everybody rejoiced. It was the first time we would hear her speak. So everybody rejoiced. People living with us, everybody was happy because, which means the effort everybody put in had paid off. Parents should come out. Let's sit down together. Let's share experiences. Let's share knowledge as to what we all need to do. Like I had to do a lot of vocational teacher, I had to hold knife, to cut onions, those difficult things, shred vegetables, do those things, do house chores, things that would make her to be self-reliant later in life because we have to think of the future of the child. Yeah. Then I took some bold things to make her come home by herself from school so that she could be careful. I took something like before, you want to cross gutters, cross road, I have to hold her hand. We leave her to know those kind of things. So they tell this one so that she can be self-reliant as she's growing into adulthood.
Autism can be challenging for both the child and their parents. But with the right approach and support, your child can learn new skills and thrive.
Tinkle, tinkle, little stars.
We want to thank you, Dr. Najat Hamza, consultant pediatrician, for coming to chat with us today on Weekend. You've enlightened us, and we know that hope is never lost.
Yes.
Hope is never lost. We often have opportunities to bring hope and succor to our children, and we must avail ourselves of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you for coming. You are watching Weekend Deal. We'll talk more when we come back, but for now, we'll take a break. Don't go away.
Intellectual disability could be caused by various factors, which could present as genetic conditions, complicated pregnancy, illness, or infections. Research shows that about 1% of every population has a child affected with intellectual disability. However, preventive measures could be taken to avert such case, for instance, avoidance of alcohol while pregnant and a proper prenatal care. Down syndrome is the common genetic cause of intellectual disability, and it can be mild or moderate.
When we want to look at what are those things that can cause disabilities, autism is there, Down syndrome is there, we call it fetal syndrome is there.
Children with Down syndrome, the only thing I can say they are facing is just they have this intellectual disability compared to other ones like autism that has to do with the spectrum, with other things there. But children with Down syndrome, they have this intellectual disability. They find it difficult a little to read, to assimilate, and then to accommodate whatever is being said, but not all of them. And that is why we say when you catch them young.
Nevertheless, when such unfortunate case happens, what is expected?
You have the parents taking care of this child. They have to make sure that they study everything about disability. They have to know it because they have to be committed and make sure that this child, you make sure the child be independent. Don't make the child because of that problem the child has already shown, and you don't make the child as if the child cannot be able to do anything on herself. No.
But people with intellectual disability, no provision had been made. Quite a number of them had not been allowed to even go to school because society considers that they are not trainable.
How to manage children with intellectual disability becomes as important as preserving humanity. So the question is, to what extent has a society been able to develop or establish structures, institutions, or centers that assist parents and caregivers of these children?
When my daughter, my last child, was born about 35 and a half years ago, and I happened to find out that she has intellectual disability, Down syndrome. Unfortunately, at that time, nobody knew about it in Nigeria. And that's when it dawned on me that nothing had been put in place to take care of the needs of parents who have children with intellectual disability. And I made up my mind. I said, we need to make a change. We first started as a support group to counsel parents and educate them on what they need to do, and then it grew into a foundation. And the foundation takes care of them in 4 different areas: early medical intervention, early educational intervention, vocational training, early social integration, and employment. And one thing I want to tell you, and which I want to challenge the public, is I would want to see one person with intellectual disability that had been offered a job. Because people feel that they have nothing to offer, which is totally wrong. They can learn, but they are visual learners, and they need the right learning environment for them to be properly taught and for them to know what to do.
Although parents and caregivers of these children strive to assist their children live a better life and contribute positively to the society, however, the experience is always traumatic.
I was meeting them for the first time as a youth corps member. I went back to my local government and I told the woman, I said, "Ma, please, I can't work with these people," because that was the first time I was meeting them. It was not a nice experience. But then later, the woman told me at the local government of mine, I said, "You can do it." And then I stood up and then I started doing it. And then that was when love came in. They are very nice and lovely people. You can't be around them and then you are bored.
Indeed, for our society to be a better place, there is need for all stakeholders to come together and provide adequate care for children with mental disability.
There is always a need when you hear about something you're not familiar with. You need to update your knowledge. You never know where you can come in and be of assistance. Remember, critical things that we're learning: love, patience, understanding will take us a long way into the world of our special children with intellectual disabilities. We have something so awesome. We're going to be showcasing on Art Live today Kanye Yachuku Tagbo Okeke, and he's already here with his dad. Can we get to say hello? This is Kanye Yachuku, and this is his dad. So we get to see what he has been doing all this while. And when we come back, we will talk with them. Please send your messages in. Be a part of this conversation. We'd love to hear from you.
Kanye Yachuku Tabo Okeke, a fine, gentle boy who lives with autism, has broken the shackles of negativity that tolls the path of the disorder. Born in 2009, in the month of November, to Mr. and Mrs. Tabo Okeke, the couple noticed the decline in his communication and social interaction, which gave them the red signal that something was wrong.
We just found out that he wasn't meeting up with in school academically. We kept realizing that we were repeating stuff. He was not just absorbing things that he was being taught, either in school or even at home. Having problems with homework, having problems with communicating. When it became fully blown, we knew that there was something wrong. His mom, now we started going for medical evaluations. We even went as far as going to the United States to run tests, and to Canada, where he was born, to run tests. But the funniest part was that we met some doctors who always said, yeah, he's okay, he's fine, he'll get out, he'll outgrow it. But you know your child, and you know there's something wrong, you know there's something wrong. So we still believe that we didn't believe, we knew that there was something wrong.
I feel so blessed, so happy, so proud. In fact, words cannot express or explain how I feel. It's only a mother that I've gone through my journey that will really understand the way I'm feeling right now. He used to draw all over the place, on the wall, all the papers in the house. It was when we started with COCAP that she was like, "Oh, your son is a genius, he's a genius." That's when it really, really dawned on us that he was really talented.
Autism through the arts medium is one of the best ways Kanye expresses himself. Most autistic artists start with doodling, which later translates to a more meaningful style of art.
Kanye came to me end of 2016. So when I see his stroke, you will not believe I was having goosebumps. The way Kanye draw a lion for me, he just do doodling. And when I see there was a lion, and I told Kanye to make a scene for me, he just do doodling, and then you will see a fence. You will see perspective, number one. You will see a fence, then you will see grass, then you will see clouds, then you will see a sun. That he was having all the imagination. So I tell the mother that thank you for bringing him, you bring a genius for me.
He made history on the 6th of September 2018 when he was conferred with the prestigious Flame of Peace Award in Vienna, Austria, for his contribution to promoting peace with his art. His paintings are hung on several walls of galleries globally. This is the artistic autistic life of a young Picasso, as he is fondly referred to.
Some in-depth work, we now have a very clear picture of what Kanye Yachuko has been doing. Well, he's been busy. Young Picasso indeed. Mr. Taiwo Okeke, welcome to Weekend Deal. Kanye Yachuko, great to see you. Yeah,
Thank you for having us this morning.
Interesting. You know, you said he has two siblings before him and one after?
Yes, he has an older sister, an older brother, and then he has a little brother.
Yes. All have this creative gift?
His older brother, yes, just finished writing a book. He's 14. Yeah, he just finished writing a book, and we're trying to get it properly edited and everything, put finishing touches to that. I'm not even supposed to be saying that right now.
Interesting, interesting. But it's great to know and great to share. Because you said something, earlier we saw a feature where the woman said she saw the child one, had not reached some milestones. The child was 2, the child was 3, and she was still watching and waiting. But we also heard you saying just a few minutes ago that you knew that something, you know, was not the way it ought to be.
Yes.
Would you say it's because you had other kids?
No, I think because we had 2 older kids, and we watched the 2 older kids grow, and we knew that, I mean, they were growing at a particular pace, which was which we were comfortable with. But then when it came to Kanye, we realized that that pace we were not seeing it. And my wife and I, we did sound the alarm, but a couple of places we were told that no, it's just a developmental problem, and not even a problem, just an issue. And if he would outgrow it, he would come out of it. And I think that really set us back. If we had at the first time when we started talking about it, if we had been told immediately, get tested, go get him tested and get a proper
diagnosis.
Yes, maybe that would have made us, you know, take some steps, some necessary steps quicker, earlier. Because of course, I'm sure you do know that early intervention is key. So early detection is what brings about the early intervention. If you don't detect early, you're not ever going to get that
we had
intervention.
Dr. Najat earlier say 5 years, by 5, everyone, the family and everyone who gives him care or gives her care should be aware of what they need to know so that they give him the best options available. But let's talk about where we are now. Okay. A very interesting place to be, I would say.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is quite interesting.
Picasso,
Oh, well.
Kanye Yachuku is being likened to a Picasso.
Well.
Did you see this coming?
I will not in any way diminish what other status that he has been ascribed to or assigned to. But first and foremost, I always want to stress the point that, you see, we have in our hands a child who has autism, who suffers with autism, and he has used his art in a very brave way to tell his own story, how he sees it, how to describe the world as he sees it, because it is something he does every day, every hour, at any time. But first and foremost, we have a child living with autism in our hands. And so he will do every other thing that a child with autism, you have not discovered any talents, any gifts, whatever they would do is the same thing that he would do.
He's doing.
We have some respite. We feel very, 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 very blessed. We have some respite, and we have something to always look forward to the next day in his art, which was discovered when he was about 5 as well, about 5. But today, I would also tell you that aside from his art, we have also seen Kanye also try to be more matured every day, to show to give a lot of hope in his behavior, no matter whatever it is, no matter. They have their meltdowns. He has his meltdowns. They have their sad times. He has his sad times. They have their times when they're angry. He has the same times as well, especially when he's trying to communicate and he doesn't know how to. But we have seen a lot of times when he shows a lot of maturity. He shows that he actually knows what's happening around him. He makes it clear what he wants, and we follow. And that, for me, gives us a lot of hope.
It's huge. It's really huge. You know, when I was talking with Dr. Douglas Oko yesterday, like I said earlier on in the program, it's not an easy mix, especially when you've had it, you know, you've had other children, and then, you know, you now have a child with autism. It takes you going to learn new things and new ways. And I know for the parents, for mother, for dad, you will go the whole distance.
Oh, yes.
How was it incorporating your other children into this learning and nurturing process so you could nurture Kanye Yachuku with the love that he deserves?
Okay, I'll start off by saying that first things first. When you discover that your child has autism, and I'm speaking to parents right now, I think that the first thing that you'd have to do is come to terms with it. Once you come to terms with it, then you're actually ready to get into the mix of it all. What you have to do is, first and foremost, try to fight the stigma. There is a stigma that is associated with it. And that is what most parents...
From within or from without? From outside?
Outside and inside. There's some, even within the family, nobody wants to know, nobody wants it to be that it's their child that is suffering from autism. Some families would tell you that we have their religious connotations attached to it.
What about the spirits? They say the spirits have left the village and have come to the city. Do you hear about the visiting spirits?
Still, I mean...
All that is a part of the cultural mix.
Everything. I mean, we've heard a lot. I heard a lot because we do a lot of advocacy, so we've heard a lot. And that's the first thing. The first monster you need to deal with is stigma. So when you're done dealing with stigma, then the next thing you're going to do, because right now you've made it clear to the whole world that I have a child who has a disorder, but it's my child and I'm going to protect that child. Then the next thing you're going to start doing is looking for solutions. The first place you should be looking for a solution is within the family. And the first way and the best way I feel that you should go about it is what my wife and I did, by creating a village. So we have a village within our family and a village within our group of friends. So we know those who are, and what we started to do is, first of all, reach out to those who are enlightened, because it is the enlightened ones that would be able to get the information.
It's relatable.
And then disseminate it to everyone else. So create a village. My father, my sisters, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my wife's sisters, brothers, we start from there. and everybody has to accept him, and everybody has to be aware. And for them to be aware and accept him, they probably have to read. They will probably have to read more about autism. And so by doing that, we're also helping the autistic society, because we want as much as possible to get the information out there. It's a merry-go-round. It keeps going around and round, because the more information we get out there, the more people will come out of that stigma and come out of their lives.
Susan Adamu put together a feature which is touching on some of the issues you mentioned, stigma and sometimes discrimination. Susan, please share.
According to statistics, it is estimated that approximately over 2.9% prevalence cases of autism spectrum disorder in Nigeria occur amongst children between the ages of 3 and 18 years, thereby making autism one of the most common developmental disorders in the country. Children with autism often face stigma and discrimination due to lack of awareness and understanding of the condition and its effects.
One of the long-term consequences of stigmatization is low self-esteem. And there's also a tendency of negative behaviors that have been modified through therapy resurfacing again when a child with autism is stigmatized if you are ignored. Because ignoring somebody with autism is a form of stigmatization which most of us don't know. A child with autism makes a comment, and you laugh because it's not making any sense. He asks a question and he's not getting any response because the question doesn't make any sense. Ignoring that child is a form of stigmatization. For normal people like us, you can be ignored and you just overlook it and walk past it. Life goes on, it's not a big deal. But for a child with autism, it affects that child. That child starts to have a rush of different emotions like anger, sadness, loneliness. Why am I different? Why can't people relate with me positively?
Stigma and discrimination against children with autism can manifest in a variety of ways, such as exclusion from social activities, bullying, denied access to health care and education. They are often sexually and domestically abused because they could not express themselves. However, with the right support and resources, children with autism can thrive and reach their full potentials.
We would like to advise parents and also members of the society that we should not stigmatize against children with autism and the parents with autism, because these children are actually not cursed. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder that can happen to anybody. So rather, we should love them, encourage them, motivate them, and we will see them be at their best and function properly.
Therefore, the need to create awareness and understanding of what autism is all about in our local communities, where there are low level of awareness, misconception, and traditional beliefs that are negative.
Misconceptions and cultural beliefs that are negative, let's discard them for the most part. Remember, the theme for this year is transforming the narrative at home, at work, in the art, and in policy making. We cannot focus on policies because we don't have the power to change or make policies, but in the home, at work, and in the arts, we as Nigerians can do a lot about changing that narrative. We go to Lagos now, where there's an actor and an artist from Victoria Island who are also making waves. And it's something that we should celebrate and hallmark more, because they are shining a bright light for many of us. In fact, we often say a village trains a child, but in these days, these children are training us. They are humbling us with the excellence in their gifts that they are showcasing. So Lagos, share with us, please.
Young Ziza Okugo and Orelfe Osisami are medically diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Rather than allow it to deter them, both have navigated through life by developing their abilities.
There are people who have, it's called eidetic memory, so he doesn't have to look at anything. Once he sees it, his brain just absorbs it and he's able to just replicate it, with enough details. So I knew that it was something that I had to nurture.
Autism is a neurodevelopmental difficulty, I like to use the word difficulty, that affects children in 4 main areas. The first is in the area of behavior. They have a repetitive behavior, or they have a behavior that is out of this world. Hyperactivity, looking from the corner of the eyes, no eye contact. And then in the area of communication, many of them do not speak. Some of them do speak, but when they speak, they lack the ability to comprehend some of the things that they say and some of the things that they say to you. For Orofe Osisami, who featured in the movie titled A Tune Away to create awareness for autistic children, he says the neurological condition does not mean the end of the world for those on the spectrum.
Hi, my name is Oyefe. This movie, I'm Omo. Omo, 24 years old. He stays in the school. Omo has autism. Anytime comes to school, teach them. Omo falls in love with Anita.
According to World Health Organization, 1 in 160 children have autism spectrum disorder globally. Therefore, the need for continuous advocacy has championed this year's theme, transformation towards a neuro-inclusive world for all.
That the child has a particular good skills, a particular talent, they can nurture it. You know, don't let the weakness or the disability of the child to overshadow the strength that that child has. Nurture it. Take the child for therapy. Take the child for assessment. If a child, you have the good part, but there are some challenges that you have. And if those challenges are not worked upon, it might be difficult even for that child to use, the talent that we said this child has.
The role of the society in supporting people that have autism is very big. And that is what we call community development. And that is when they can develop their social skills. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a child to raise a village. So with autism, it takes that singular child to raise that village, consciousness of that village that there is somebody in their community that is different, and that doesn't mean that the person is less. As a result of this, managing children born with autism is quite huge for families because of its life-changing experiences.
We face a lot of challenges, and it's usually the simple things, like it's not because the kids are neurodivergent, everyday simple things that seem very easy to everybody becomes quite a difficult event.
So everybody must be involved in ensuring that everyone knows about autism, parents, teachers, school owners, administrators, everybody. Not that we begin to stigmatize.
With this year's theme on transformation towards a neuro-inclusive world for all, developing, accepting and creating an inclusive society for children with special needs such as autism spectrum disorder should be advocated.
We're going to Ibadan, okay? When you see that feature on air, then you can say goodbye, okay? And we go to Ibadan now, where they are focusing on children with intellectual disabilities. Ibadan, show us, please.
Old Malik Bello and 13-years-old Mariam Adeniji have both been managing themselves with Down syndrome, which is a type of intellectual disability from birth. They are both being monitored and managed in a home where they are being taken care of.
Down syndrome is often from birth, and there is early detection. They detect early, and most times when they are able to detect this condition early, then we start some what we call intervention programs for them.
35-years-old is a normal Aja who loves to sing and always a team lead in a school. accurate statistics for people living with intellectual disability in your state?
And when we talk about data on children with intellectual disability, there is no reliable data as to the number of children with intellectual disability in your state. And this is not just limited to your state. I think it's a general problem. It's a general issues that we are looking at, and I think there's need for us to actually take this as a matter of urgency now that we have disability law in place.
However, the government has been of tremendous help in managing homes and schools with people with intellectual disability.
Government is even trying feeding them. There are some homes in this Oyo state, and government is trying and feed them well.
To many in the state, particularly parents, more can be done to improve on the plight.
Level of awareness, especially in the rural areas, is nothing to write home about. And most times when these children are born, parents don't actually know what is wrong with such a child. And even when they know, they don't know where to run to or where to seek for help.
If the government can make a policy that will be favorable to them and make their education and health free, it will go a long way to improve the conditions.
But thank God today for the government policy and the awareness as well, that all the children are now able to school. They are now in school.
Whatever it is, whichever circumstances they find themselves, they are resolute to make something out of their lives, as evidenced in Malik and Miriam, who told me they would like to be a banker and a doctor respectively.
In academic aspects, though we have their categories, there are those that are profound and severe based on their classes, and we have those that are trainable and those that are educable. So the profound and severe, they are just like the baby class in our regular counterpart schools. But the trainable, they are the ones that can do some little domestic works. I think to some extent in domestic or household chores, they are dependent. They can carry out some tasks by themselves.
Health is wealth. Whatever we can do to make their lives better, let us not hesitate to do so.
We always say, when in doubt, let kindness come forth. Let kindness, patience, understanding, and wisdom come forth. Yesterday, Mr. Samuel Aleyedeno kept reaching out to us several times, said he wants to meet Blessing in Gape so she can work with his son. His son is 19 years, and he says he's been in 6 different schools, and there's been no improvement for the last 14 years. We will connect you with Blessing and many other of our callers who wanted to connect with several people they saw on the program yesterday and today. Our producer will do her best to harmonize it all. Their color is blue. Their symbol is a puzzle. And what do puzzles mean? They are for us to decipher, to uncover, to open, and to show love and understanding. God indeed bless Nigeria. Bye-bye.